Hari Hari, welcome to the Bhagavad Gita Certification course. This is Module 1. We will be covering Chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita. Both the module and the chapter are titled Arjuna, Vishada Yoga. The link to the exam for this module will be in the description. The title Arjuna Vishada is referring obviously to Arjuna. Arjuna and Krishna are on the battle of Kurukshetra, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And the Bhagavad Gita is a discussion between Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield. The first thing we must clarify is why Arjuna on a battlefield to begin with. Arjuna and his 5 brothers have had their kingdom, which they inherited from their father, usurped by their cousins, 100 cousins. These cousins not only usurped the kingdom from Arjuna and his 5 brothers, called the Pandavas, he contrived and engaged in illegal means to have the 5 Pandavas and Arjuna exiled into the forest for 13 years. The cousins also committed various crimes, tried to have them assassinated, abused Arjuna's wife on a number of occasions. All of this came to a head, and the cousins refused to give what was rightfully theirs back to the Pandavas. So it ended in coming to a war. Krishna is Arjuna's cousin, and he agreed to act as Arjuna's chariot driver during the war. He would not carry weapons, because in many ways he was related to Arjuna as a cousin, but he was also related by marriage to the cousins of Arjuna. So Krishna determined he would not personally pick up arms, but Arjuna, who was his best friend and cousin, he decided to drive his chariot. So now the Pandavas are on the battlefield. Arjuna's on the battlefield. The 100 cousins are on the opposite side. Arjuna asks Krishna to draw the chariot between the 2 armies because Arjuna wants to see what is happening. Krishna draws the chariot between the 2 armies, and Arjuna sees on both sides his brothers, cousins, uncles, grandfathers, his teachers. It is in fact every member of his family, both by marriage and by blood, are on both sides of this battle. And he becomes completely overwhelmed with not fear, but with the enormity of what's about to take place, the slaughter that is about to take place of the families, and also the allied families and kingdoms who also join one side or the other. And he is completely struck, in many ways immobile, by the enormity of what he's facing. And this is Vishada. Vishada means that dilemma. More than just a dilemma. It's not merely a dilemma. It is the inability to move forward. It is the inability to even truly comprehend or wrap his head around the scope of what's about to happen. So the title, the first title of the Bhagavad Gita is given that name, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the absolute devastating conundrum, dilemma, bewilderment that Arjuna is facing. Bhagavad Gita chapter 1, text 30 is the anchor verse for this chapter. Krishna says to Arjuna, I am unable to stay steady. My mind wanders and I see only omens of misfortune. Wanders is an accurate word, but it doesn't properly convey what Arjuna is experiencing. His mind is reeling. His mind is completely turned upside down. That's what Vishada indicates. His mind is completely paralyzed, completely overwhelmed with the enormity of what's about to happen. So this is the anchor verse for this chapter. SEVA, C-E-V-A, is an acronym that is used to categorize the various reasons Arjuna gives for not wanting to engage in battle. Let's explore them. The first category is compassion. He gives a number of reasons of why he doesn't want to go to war, why this is a bad idea. One of those categories of reasons is compassion. And seeing all of his relatives and friends and family on both sides, he's overwhelmed with the sense of compassion. And compassion is described as being a necessary ingredient on the path towards liberation and goodness and success. But compassion is described in the Shastras in a very complex way. It's not merely to be sentimentally compassionate. There's a lot more to it than that. But Arjuna is at least showing levels of compassion here. The second category of his reasonings is enjoyment. He asks Krishna, what am I going to get out of this? If I lose the battle, well, I've lost, I'm dead. What's the point in that? And if I win, I've done so at the cost of the lives of my entire family. Because his family is not only on his own side, they're members of his family on the opposite side. And everyone, there's no telling who is going to survive this battle. Everyone will be slaughtered. So if Arjuna himself wins, comes out victorious, he has 5 brothers. If he survives and his brothers are slaughtered or slain, what kind of a win is that? So Arjuna says, if I lose, I lose. If I win, I lose. Where is the enjoyment? Where is the victory in that? Third consideration or category is varnashram. Varnashram is the social structure of the time. Arjuna is concerned with what's going to happen with society after the battle. Because on the battlefield are all the leaders of society, all the Kshatriya members, all the kings, all the administrators. Everyone who runs society are pretty much on the battlefield on one side or the other. If they are all slaughtered, who is going to protect the citizens from criminals, rogues, thieves, gangs, and so on? Who's going to ensure that the citizens are taken care of? Who's going to maintain the cities and kingdom? So Arjuna's concern is for society after the battle. In those times, wars took place in a distant, barren plain, so there were no civilian casualties, physical deaths in battle, and thank God for that. Unlike nowadays, where civilian casualties are merely called collateral damage. So at least there were no civilian casualties in that regard. But if the leaders of society, particularly the Kshatriyas, if most of the men were slain and slaughtered, who was going to protect the elderly, the women, the children? They will be exploited, abused by individuals who are not Kshatriyas, who are not guided by the principles of Dharma. So this was his third area of concern. And then the fourth category of his reasons fall into dharma and adharma. In other words, what is actually legal? Arjuna's question is it actually legal to have this war? Legal in terms of dharma. Is it the right thing to do? In those times, Vedic times, the societies and one lived their lives according to the principles of dharma. Those were the principles of the laws of society, the laws of humankind, if you will. So Arjuna's concern is this battle, is it dharmic or adharmic? Is this legal or illegal? And by his estimation, it seemed that it was mostly illegal, this battle to take place. So these are the four categories of the reasons Arjuna gave for why this war should not take place, and certainly why he should not engage in the battle. Problem, the dilemma that Arjuna is having is for the following reasons. The Dharma Shastras are there for the individual, for society, to determine what's legal and what's illegal. But Arjuna could not find direction or clarity from the Dharma Shastras. So he therefore was in this dilemma. The Dharma Shastras did not provide that guidance of clarity for the situation in which he currently found himself. The Artha Shastras similarly describe or give guidance on how to manage society, what should or should not be done, how to arrange things so everyone is taken care of. The Artha Shastras also did not provide clarity and guidance. It was ambiguous. In certain situations, you must go to work. In certain situations, you should not. It was ambiguous. There was no clarity to be had from the Artha Shastras either. Even the Kama Shastras, dealing with one's personal, material satisfaction, happiness, and benefit. Even that, Arjuna was finding difficulty in gaining any kind of clarity. There were all kinds of scenarios that would cause Arjuna to be disadvantaged. So there was no clarity to be had in the Artha Shastras. In the Moksha Shastras, there was a little measure of clarity. Arjuna was compassionate. Arjuna himself was a spiritual personality in terms of his understanding of the role, the purpose of human life, and to achieve liberation thereafter. His experience of compassion and those saintly qualities. But in the final analysis, even the Moksha Shastras did not provide the complete clarity he needed. Because even the Moksha Shastras describe the necessity of being free of karma and engaging in activities that seemingly caused bad karma, then that would inhibit or prevent him from achieving moksha. So better to choose the compassionate way, remain free of karma, and achieve moksha. But compassion is more than, or compassion can be interpreted based on a number of different equations. So there was very little clarity to be had from the Moksha Shastras as well. So this is the crux of Arjuna's problem. Arjuna is a highly learned individual in the Vedic Shastras, highly learned, highly educated, and still he could not find guidance or clarity from any of these Shastras. Krishna provides the solution. The Bhakti Shastras. There are two Gitas. Well, there are a number of Gitas, but there are two Gitas spoken by Krishna. One is the Bhagavad Gita, and one is the Uddhava Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad meaning the Supreme Being, the Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. The Uddhava Gita is a conversation that takes place about 40 years later, and it's a conversation between Krishna and Uddhava. Uddhava is Krishna's cousin. He's also one of Krishna's best friends, and he's also Krishna's personal assistant. Uddhava has been essentially attached to the hip of Krishna since Krishna was a child, since they were both children. There are some wonderful stories about Krishna and Uddhava for another time. 40 years or so after the Battle of Kurukshetra, when Krishna was preparing to leave the planet, Uddhava was overcome with grief. And Krishna was sitting in a park beneath a tree, preparing for his departure. And Uddhava was there. He came there and he was crying in grief, knowing he would be missing Krishna. And a conversation ensued, and Krishna begins to instruct Uddhava in spiritual life. That conversation is called the Uddhava Gita. Both these two Gitas have elements and information and instructions that can be categorized as Dharma Shastric, Artha Shastric, Kama Shastric, and Moksha Shastric. Moksha Shastric, these terms merely define how a Shastra is dealing with a particular topic. So both Bhagavad Gita and Uddhava Gita have Dharma Shastra, Artha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha Shastra within them. but they are, in the final analysis, considered bhakti shastras. Because in both of those Gitas, the conclusion is bhakti. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is talking about, and he addresses all the other types of shastric instructions and possibilities, but they are all in connection with, all in service of the conclusion, which is bhakti. And we see that in the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna points to and ends with instructions in Bhakti Shastra. Same thing with conversation with Uddhava. Ends with instructions in Bhakti Shastra. So these two Gitas by Krishna are Bhakti Shastras. Although there's all kinds of information in both the Bhagavad Gita and the Uddhava Gita, it doesn't negate the other types of shastric teachings. Absolutely not. In fact, those other shastric teachings support and highlight how Bhakti Shastra covers and provides clarity for the individual in all circumstances. So Krishna's solution to Arjuna's dilemma, as we study the Bhagavad Gita, we will see all of these different types of shastric teachings come up, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And then we will also see where Krishna begins to emphasize and comes back and again and again and again highlight Bhakti Shastras. And that's where Arjuna gets his solution. So the exam for this module is in the description. You can take the exam. You can always come back and refer to the video, read through the entire exam, take your time, be free of distractions. Once you submit your exam, you will receive an invoice via email for $25, and your exam will then be graded, corrected, and graded and sent back to you. After you've completed the 18 modules and submitted the 18 exams, then your grade will go towards getting your certification. In order to achieve certification, a Gita Parichaya Certification, you have to have an aggregate grade of plus 75. Hari Hari. I am unable to stay steady. My mind wanders, and I see only omens of misfortune, O Keshava. Keshava is another name for Krishna.